Alrighty, what up, y'all? Digibro, fresh up out the water, like my cousin Ursula. Here to tell you to continue this thing that I started the other day for some fucking reason, and just to move on and go on to the next part. We're talking about every show I dropped and why I dropped it. Oh yeah, and the last one I made a bunch of people mad by talking shit about Clannad and Fate. And you know, guys, just calm down. It's just an opinion. It's just me being spicy. There's nothing wrong with liking whatever shows you like. Obviously, not everyone only likes Clannad because it makes you cry. I know that people like it for legitimate reasons. I am being an asshole. And if you want to defend these shows, make your own videos. My biggest problem with the Fate franchise is no one has ever satisfactorily explained to me why it's good. People just insist that you read the novel. No one ever explains why you should read the novel, just that you should read the novel. Which, understandably, I mean, the thing's fucking long as shit, so you probably don't even remember why you liked it by the time you're done with it. Anyways, Locadol. This was a show from 2014. It was a cute little thing about these girls who try to become idols to save their hometown or to drive tourism to their hometown. Similar to Love Live in that way, but this one's more of a slice of life comedy with a unexpected Yuri twist, because this girl is like a big lesbian. But yeah, it's alright. I just didn't bother finishing it. I was watching it while it was airing. That's one where I probably could have made it through if I'd watched it all in one go, but you know, Galaxy Angel. This, I didn't know I watched 7 episodes of this. When the hell did that happen? Galaxy Angel is a show about a bunch of dumb girls in space. It's a, you know, it's a cute girls doing cute things show, but a space adventure version of it. So, you know, it's got the sci-fi angle, and I guess I just wasn't that into it. I didn't know I watched 7 whole episodes. I do not remember having seen that much of it, but you know, they're only 13 minutes, and I probably thought, like, because it was a long and kind of beloved series of its time, I probably wanted to get into it, but just didn't. Galilei Donna. Is this that one? Is this that weird-ass A1 Pictures show? Yeah, this was like... This one, I saw the first episode of this. I don't remember why. It might have been a Crunchy Roulette even, or something like that. It was. I definitely watched it with somebody, and we were both just like, what the hell am I looking at? Like, this is just a fucking weird thing. And it was years after the fact that we looked at it. So, like, after seeing the first episode, I was like, this seems like it could either turn out to be really interesting or completely stupid. So I looked up some reviews, and they leaned towards completely stupid. So I was like, all right. Golf Force New Era. This is another 1991 thing in OVA. It's a part of, like, I guess Golf Force was a series of a bunch of OVAs about a bunch of cute girls designed by Kenichi Sonoda, the same guy who did Gunsmith Cats and Otaku no Video. One of my favorite character designers, but this series of OVAs, I don't know if any of them are supposed to be, like, particularly good. This one's pretty badly rated, and none of them are, like, well rated. I know some people like the series, but this episode I watched, I think I watched an episode and a half, actually, and it did not do anything for me. So I was like, I don't know if this is a weaker entry into the series because it's one of the later ones, or if, like, me not seeing the other ones would make it confusing. I know this one is like a different set of characters and stuff, but I don't know. Maybe I'll check out the other ones one day. Gangsta. I think I talked about this at the time in my video on why I dropped every summer season show you liked, or whatever it was called. This show, strong premise, strong location and characters and soundtrack and everything, but it just, like, the animation just falls apart, and it was just not paced that well. It was just too wonky, you know? It's like it should be good, but it's just not quite there because of the production falling through. Gantz, this show is just, like, garbage trash. I know that everybody likes the manga. The manga goes on way longer than the show. Infamously, the show just kind of, like, 18 episodes in, veers away and makes up its own ending that nobody likes. But the manga continues on forever. But I mean, the thing about this is that it's just a bunch of sex and violence and like over the top edgy bullshit. I think a woman gets raped by a dog within the first 4 episodes of this show. Like there's just lots of rape, lots of fan service, lots of violence, and all with no taste and terrible animation. So yeah, I didn't like it at all. Gyaro! This is a transforming hero show set in a fantasy world. I just wasn't interested very much by the first 2 episodes and didn't feel the need to continue. I didn't care about the characters and their dynamic all that much, so I just lost interest. Gasaraki. I don't remember anything that happened in this. I remember having watched it. It was just like one of the mech shows of the late 90s that I'd heard about. I'd seen advertisements in magazines for it over the years. So I decided to give it a look, and I was bored because it's like a very serious, militaristic robot show and not really my speed. Gate. This show's fucking god-awful. I made a whole video about how bad it is, how to recognize a terrible anime in just 1 episode. I watched 4 episodes just so I'd be able to say that, because to me, even if the show were to have gotten good after episode 4, if your first 4 episodes are all a 1 out of 10, this is a bad show. You know, you can't recover from that. You can't recover from a third of the show being terrible. So, as far as I was concerned, 4 was enough to prove my point. Gegege no Kitaro. This is a classic Japanese, it's an old like children's horror manga, I guess is how I'd put it, that has been adapted into many different long anime series over the years. This one, I only happened to see an episode of this because I was staying in the Philippines and it came on Animax Asia, I believe. It was just on TV in dub. It was Tagalog dubbed, so I didn't understand what the hell anybody was saying. I was just like, just watching it because it was on. I had that channel on like the whole time I was there, so yeah, that's the only reason I saw any of it. This one, I just Gene o Kakeru Taiyo, or Daybreak Illusion. I watched the first episode of this on Crunchyroll, and it was just like laughably. I know I've been saying the word edgy a lot in these drop videos, and I feel bad because I'm not a big fan of the word edgy, but like, you know it when you see it. And these shows like this one, man, it is just like, that's all it's trying to be. Like, it's just like, ooh, look at this dark twist, you know, oh, this is like a magical girl show, but it's dark, you know, and it's so just like, there's just no tact in it, you know. Again, Somaden Sayuki, this, weirdly enough, this show is getting a fucking reboot next season. I found out from looking at the chart 15 years later. I don't know what the hell inspired that. But this is a journey to the West with pretty boys. Like, that's all it's just like 4 beautiful men go on an adventure. You know, this is the post-Gundam Wing age, I guess. And I had the first 2 DVDs of this back in the day, and I'd always thought it was like okay. It was one of those that I really wanted to like it, but I couldn't get that into it. But yeah, so I'd seen the first 10 episodes from those DVDs, and I just never ended up buying the rest. And weirdly that it says it's 50 episodes, because I know in the US it was marketed as Sayuki and then Sayuki Reload. So it was like 2 different shows, because this dude had a gun. I guess it's like an anachronistic journey to the West. I barely remember. It's been 15 years. Well, not 15, but it's been a long time. Let's see. I always lose my fucking place. I never keep track of it. Getsuyobi no Tawawa. I think this might be porn. Oh no, this is that fucking dumbass show. I only watched the whole first episode of this because it was only 4 minutes, but like, it's just like a show about looking at girls with big tits and being glad that they exist, I guess. Ghost Hunt. This was one I didn't intend to drop when I was watching it, and maybe I'd pick it up again. There's a certain category of shows that are dropped on my list. I think I mentioned a couple of these before, but it's like shows that I put on hold at some point, and then like a certain number of years passed, and I just assumed I would never get back to it, and I marked them as dropped. So this is one of those where I watched the first 7 episodes and I relatively liked it. It has some cool visuals. It's a horror series, but not like a scary horror series, more like a ghost story horror series, about these supernatural detectives. And it was all right. And then I just put it on hold and never got back to it, and figured I never would because I could barely remember it, after some time had passed. Ghost in the Shell Arise Logicoma specials. Yeah, I only watched the first 2 episodes of Ghost in the Shell Arise, so I never saw the other specials. Giant Gorg. This is another one that just by force of being on hold for so long, I eventually marked as dropped, even though I really liked the first 2 episodes of this. So Giant Gorg, this was a show that for a long time was almost sort of lost to time, because when I found it, like, I found 2 episodes of this dubbed into English on YouTube, and that was the only way I could find any episodes of it in any form. There were no torrents of it dubbed or subbed. There was no other uploads, just the first 2 episodes dubbed on YouTube, and I watched them, and they were really fun, and I wanted to see more. And then one time at an anime convention, it was at Otakon. It was there was these guys calling like an old dudes anime panel. Like, it was just 3 like 40-something-year-old guys who've been into anime since the fucking 80s, talking about it. And one of them brought up Giant Gorg, and I think I asked a question, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I've got it all on like a DVD. I could like burn DVDs. I can loan it to you," or something like that. But I was too much of a chicken shit to go up and take him up on that, because that would involve talking to a person, and I didn't know how to do that. I was a teenager. So yeah, I never watched more, and I think I had just assumed for a long time that I never would get to see it. But then they uploaded the whole fucking thing on Crunchyroll a couple of years, like last year maybe. So I will one day finish Giant Gorg. In fact, I'm just gonna mark this right now as on hold instead of as dropped. I should go through and do that for all the ones that aren't really dropped, although that'll fuck up my numbers. Oh, well, we'll figure that out tomorrow. Giant Killing. This was a show I really wanted to like. Has an awesome OP. It's about soccer, and it's about this guy who becomes the manager of a soccer team, or like the coach, and he's just like this really cool, badass, kind of arrogant dude who's an awesome coach, and he coaches this fucking team. Problem with this show is dog shit animation quality, courtesy of Dean. It was just too ugly and too slow. Like, they stretched out the manga chapters just a bit too much, and the production was just a bit too bad for it to be watchable. So I only made it halfway through the show. The manga has this really bizarre artwork that's kind of cool, but also kind of hard to follow. But yeah, it's just shy of being something that I could finish. Gifu Dodo. The title of this show cracks me up so much. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about Gifu Dodo that I think is fucking hilarious. But I remember watching the first episode of this at a friend's house, just because it came on at the start of the season, and we were just like, what in the fuck is this? It's like really badly produced, but like it's one of those shows where it's like there's no animation, but the character designs are like these gigantic men with all this fucking stuff on. Like the illustrative art is complicated, but they don't move. Yeah, it seemed really stupid and goofy, but Gifu Dodo. Silver Spoon. So this show, I am not the biggest fan of the great outdoors, and and the backcountry. Like, I think it's cool. I think it's cool to go to the backcountry and visit. But when people put it up on a pedestal, like, this show is propaganda for for like agriculture and not being a city boy. Like the whole show is just ragging on this main character guy who's from the city for being a city boy and for not knowing stuff about agriculture, and everyone is like a pretentious asshole who's just, or an elitist asshole rather, who's so into their fucking fresh market food, which personally I don't even care about how fresh the fucking food is. All right, you know, it tastes the same. Personally, I think so. So, you know, these characters just constantly fucking hammering about how, you city folk and your processed cheese. And I'm just like, fuck off. So, and I know I think I only saw I know I missed the very beginning of episode 1 of this because I saw it at Otakon. I just like walked into a screening, and then I watched the next 2 episodes when I was at home. And the thing that finally pissed me off enough to drop it was because I had just broken up with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and she was way into horses. Like, all she talked about all the time was horses, and I don't give a fuck about horses. I hate animals in general. So this show, episode 3, is all about how fucking cool horses are, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't. I just got out of the horse realm, and now you're throwing me right back into, oh, horses are cool. Oh, horses, they're so majestic. Horses are fucking lame. Nobody gives a fuck about horses. Horses were cool once upon a time when you needed to ride them to get around, you know? Now they're useless. Just eat them. I'd eat a horse. I would definitely eat a horse. Okay. Bye, fam. This is a weird mecha show. I think it was mecha from the 80s that I don't remember why I watched the first episode of this, but I remember thinking it was really weird and off-putting and not continuing with it. But it has a hilarious eye-catch thing where in the middle of the episode it just, bye, fam. And that's the main thing I remember about it. Let's see. Majestic Prince. I watched the first episode of this and just didn't care very much. It's like a spacefaring mecha show. I was never big into space, like stuff that takes place in space as a setting. I just find it boring. And it's got the character designs from, what's his fucking name? The guy whose character designs literally all look the same. What the fuck is his name? Hisashi Hirai, is that him? Yeah, that guy. He did Gundam Seed and Escryed, which Escryed, they look okay. Infinite Revias, everyone kind of looks exactly the same. And I like that show, but man, so yeah, like I watched an episode of this and just wasn't into it. And then I heard that this kind of picks up later, but I don't know. It seems like a show you need to be into mechs for. I've heard it has really amazing mech battles, like really impressive use of CGI mechs, but that's not my genre. Glasslip, this show is like a train wreck. I think everybody recognizes that, considering its score. I don't know what the hell PA Works was thinking with this show. It's really beautiful to look at, like all their shows are, you know, beautiful character art, beautiful backgrounds. The plot makes no sense, and the characters are fucking weird and unrelatable, and the whole thing was just a clusterfuck. I don't know what they were thinking. What were you thinking, Junji Nishimura? You know, you have directed some good shit. You directed True Tears was okay. Vivid Strike was great. Simone is great. And your episodes of Rambo in Half are some of the best episodes. What did you do? How did you fuck this one up? What went wrong? Was it the writer's fault? Who wrote this? Who fucked up here? Whose fault is this? Who are you, Rika Sato? You look like you're mostly a key animator. In any case, that show is a clusterfuck. God Eater. Yeah, this was the show uses some really interesting animation techniques, but I did not like the aesthetic of it, and it's just like a self-serious action show, and I felt like it was just a little too serious, a little too up its own ass to really be fun, and the animation, just because it was so weird and it sometimes just really off-putting and ugly, Brunhilde in the Darkness. God, it's from the guy who made Elfenlied, so you can guess about what it's like. Everything that dude made is just edge up to 12, and in weird psychosexual ways. Yeah, I watched 2 episodes of this and wanted no more part in it. It does have a Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas song as its second OP though. Golgo 13. This is the 2008 version. So Golgo 13 is the longest running manga that's still going now that Kochikame is over. And it's just about this guy named Golgo who never smiles. He's a sniper and he always fucking kills the guy he's trying to kill. And it's like the narrative can be virtually anything that would involve Golgo in it. Often political or just weird. And yeah, they made an anime in 2008. I watched the first episode when it came out, and I thought it was okay, but not really my kind of show, so I didn't continue it. But I don't know. It's probably fine. If you like badass, manly action hero kind of guys, you might enjoy it. Goshusho Sama Ninomiya-kun. This is just some harem show from ages ago. I'm sure I saw episodes of this when it came out, and I think I only watched 2 whole episodes because there was a blogger who was like into it and was like defending it, and I was like, well, maybe it's worth a shot. And then I watched another episode and I went, nope. Gosick, rest in peace to the original author who recently died, or was it the illustrator? The original illustrator, I think, died recently. But yeah, Gosick, I had read the first book of the light novels, specifically because it was translated by Andrew Cunningham, the guy who did the Boogie Pop books, and it was pretty alright. I had always thought it would make a nice little OVA, preferably done by like Shaft or something. And it said it was done by Bones, and what was weird about the anime is I just really hated the way they adapted the character designs. Like, I love the designs and the artwork in the original books, and I did not like the way they were adapted. I didn't like the overall aesthetic of the show, and it changes things considerably from the books, like to the point where in the 6 episodes I watched, only like half of the content was stuff related to the first book, and it felt like they were stretching it out over a like I don't know if they were mixing multiple books and intermingling them or just adding in original content. Either way, I just wasn't happy with the way it was going. I know a lot of people really enjoy this, but I don't know how many of them have read the books, or if maybe just the fact that I'd read it made me come in with certain expectations that weren't met. Grappler Baki. This is a crazy-ass fucking action show about a bunch of swole dudes. I saw a couple episodes of this on the Funimation network way back in the day, which is why I've seen any of it at all. I don't really remember. I remember the original OVA. I don't really remember anything about the show. The Fruit of Greasy. I found the first episode of this really obnoxious, and I know it gets serious later and that it's like a whole thing, but like I hated the characters. Also, it feels really weird because there's this cognitive dissonance about the fact that it's not Monogatari, but it looks so much like it. Because I don't know is it the animation director who's the same? There's somebody, one of the main staff of the Monogatari series worked on this show. Akio Watanabe. It's Akio Watanabe's character designs. And he was the chief animation director. So yeah, because Watanabe Akio did everything on it, it feels like you're watching Monogatari, except where none of the characters are nearly as interesting as they are in Monogatari. So yeah, that's why it was really off-putting for me. But whatever. Let's see. Groove Adventure Rave, or Rave Master as it was known in the US. So Rave Master was like my favorite manga for a while when I was like 12. It had, I think I had 10 volumes. It's the manga I had the most volumes of for like a really long time. In fact, it might still be. I don't know if I own 10 volumes of, well, I guess Gunslinger Girl if you count omnibuses. So yeah, like I was really into Rave Master, which is just kind of a shonen du jour. You know, it's a guy on an adventure, but it's got really weird, wacky art. People always compared it to One Piece at the time, which they would then do even more so when Fairy Tail came out from the same author, Hiro Mashima, who was very young when he started Rave Master. And yeah, I really liked it, but it was starting to get more serious at the part where I stopped reading, and I was starting to lose interest in it. The anime series started on Cartoon Network at some point, and it was a 4Kids dub that just ruined it for me. Like, I could not deal with the way that the anime felt at all, so I did not watch very much of it. Gugure Kokuri-san. This is a show about a cute little girl who's never leaves the house, and she gets like haunted by these spirits who start hanging out with her. I was kind of into this show as of episode 1. Like, I liked the girl. I like her voice because it's Ryo Hirohashi, who I am a fan of. She sounds like a robot. And I liked her, but then, like, the thing is that she's surrounded by all these pretty boys, and as the show went along, I started to get the sense that this was like, which is odd because it's a shonen series, but it felt like a shoujo, like, reverse harem. Like, it's a little girl surrounded by pretty boys who are all, like, kind of in love with her kind of thing, or at least the main guy is. So, I don't know. It felt weird. And as it went along, it just kept playing. Every time it would try to get serious or, like, play into the romance aspect, I found it lame, and I didn't really find the other characters that funny. Like, I really just wanted to watch the main girl, but, you know, whatever. Guilty Crown. This show, dumb as a brick. It's an action adventure, I guess, show. It's like a post-apocalyptic fucking thing. It was what put Hiroyuki Sawano sort of on the map in the public consciousness because of his badass soundtrack. And it had great, artwork and animation, directed by, what's his name? Tetsuro Araki, who's best known for Attack on Titan and Death Note. And it's it was popular, but man, people watched this show for the train wreck. Like, at least everybody I knew who was watching it was like, this was like Code Geass, except, like, whereas Code Geass people ultimately liked, they just thought it was hilarious where it was going. Guilty Crown was like more of watching this ironically, is the impression I got from most of the people watching it. That it was like fun to watch because it was so stupid and was doing such like baffling things that people kept watching it. Personally, I'm not usually really into ironic viewings, and I just, gave up after a couple episodes. Green Saga. This is an anime series based on the longest running series of novels in the world. There was like 130 books of this before the author unfortunately died, and I think they picked up, like someone else picked up where she left off, and it's one of the biggest influences on Berserk, which is why I've always been worried that the same thing's going to happen to Kentaro Miura, because he updates so fucking slowly. But yeah, it's about a lion-headed guy in a fantasy world. I remember the first episode just kind of being weird. It's directed by Atsushi Wakabayashi, who's best known as an animation director and animator who worked on all this stuff, like Yu Yu Hakusho. I talked about him extensively in my History of Shinbo in the 90s video, because he had done work on a bunch of Shinbo. He's done more than what is listed here. This is pretty incomplete, but he has a lot more key animation credits. But yeah, I didn't even know he had ever directed anything until a recent interview translated by Wave Motion Canon talked about him working on Guin Saga, which I remember being weird at its directing. So maybe he didn't do a good job, or maybe I just remember it wrong. It was a long time ago. Gun Frontier. I watched the first episode of this because it's a Leiji Matsumoto thing, and this guy called Anime Critique, who I used to follow, an anime blogger, was really into Leiji Matsumoto and always talking about him. He talked about Gun Frontier, and it made me curious about it, so I gave an episode a watch, and I think I thought it was okay, but just that it was, I don't know, it was weird, and It's been forever, man. Some of these, it's really hard. Like, there's a lot of shows on this list that when I read, I look at it and I go, yeah, okay, I remember dropping this, but I'm actually interested in watching it now, like, because my tastes are completely different from how they were 10 years ago. So, like, there's plenty of shows on this list that there's a good chance if I watched it again, I'd enjoy it. Gundam Build Fighters. This show is pretty beloved by Gundam fans because it's like just basically fan service for Gundam, and incredibly good looking fan service. It's just a bunch of fucking mech battles, and divorced from the context that ruins so many of the alternate century Gundam shows, because one of the biggest problems with Gundam in the alternate century, because the universal century shows are just war stories, they're really good. The alternate century shows tend to focus on a protagonist who is a pacifist, who does not want war, and then ends up fighting anyways, and they tend to have these really weird mixed messages where, for instance, a character will just be so good at piloting a Gundam that they never have to kill anybody. Like, they just get away with being a paragon of virtue because they're just so good at piloting a Gundam, and nobody else is. So, yeah, this show avoids all of that, sidesteps that, and just gives you Gundam just focused on cool space battles, but also being accessible to kids because it's not a deeply violent show. It's not a dark war story or anything. So it basically keeps everybody happy on some level. And supposedly it's really good, but I watched 4 episodes and I felt like a big part of how you get into this show is by loving mech battles, which I'm not that huge a fan of. I guess I tried the first episode of the second series as well, just because I'd heard it was also good, but, neither one did I make it far in. Gundam G-Reco. I had a video about this back when it was coming out. This is another one I put on hold and then just never finished. It was Yoshiyuki Tomino coming back to Gundam and making the weirdest fucking least comprehensible show ever made. It is very strange. The entire cadence of the directing is like nothing I've ever seen before, except for maybe other Tomino shows, like, Garzy's Wing and Overman King Geiner, and, not to say that those are on the same quality level, but they're on the same Tomino level. Gungrave. This is one of those shows that everyone says, every time I bring up the, you can tell a good anime by its first episode, people always say not Gungrave, because the first episode of this show weirdly takes place after the rest of the show, and I guess it's just considered a gigantic spoiler, and no one knows why. Like, no one seems to be happy. I've never seen it defended. Like, usually when a show is out of order in a weird way, then people will say that there's some greater artistic purpose for it. I have never seen anyone defend the opening episode of Gungrave. Maybe I will now in the comments. Maybe somebody has seen a defense, but all I've ever seen is skip the first episode because it's literally the ending and it'll just spoil the whole plot. I don't know how true that is. I watched the first episode like 10 years ago because I had played the game, and I guess I didn't like it very much. But, maybe if I watched it today, I would like that episode and the rest of the show. Who's to say? I almost watched it for the sake of that video, but I just didn't end up doing so. Gun Parade March. This one I remember being like, it's about like a bunch of mecha cadets, and I think it was like charmingly written, but not interesting enough for me to continue. I don't know. I don't really remember what happens in it. I mean, clearly I didn't hate episode 1, but I guess I wasn't interested enough. I think that's another one I left on hold forever and then eventually just dropped because I had no memory of it. Sometimes I'll mark a show as dropped just because if I go a little while without watching it and then suddenly I realize I don't remember a single thing that happened, then I go, well, maybe the show maybe it wasn't amazing, if I can't even remember it. But then again, my memory of shows I watched wasn't as good back then. This sounds like porn. Yep, Guren. This is porn. Is this that one about the ninjas? That one was good. No, I watched all of that. I don't know what that one is. Gyakuten Saiban. It's Phoenix Wright. Just wasn't that impressed with that. H2O Footprints in the Sand. This is another eroge adaptation, I think. God, look at this fucking wonky ass face in this. This is a sad thumbnail. This is just a sad state of affairs. Actually, I guess they just have weird faces, but this one is particularly fucked up. Yeah, glad I dropped that. Hackadol. This is from a couple years ago. It's like a wacky, fun little short episode show. I thought it was okay, but it wasn't inspiring enough to continue. I think this is made by like one guy. Yeah, this dude Gesso Ikuo. Like, I think he basically did the whole show by himself. Haito Genso no Grimgar. Yeah, I just didn't. I didn't like the first episode of this at all. This is one of those that I've heard. It's odd. There's certain people who really defend this show. Like, some people really got into the atmosphere of it. Some people really loved the characters and just the way the narrative played out or the directing. But then there's a lot of other people who say it's just like a giant piece of garbage. So, like, I don't know who to listen to, but I listened to my gut, and I didn't like the first episode at all. And I find the animation really off-putting. I hate how it does the weird blur effects on everything. And, yeah, I'm not a fan of the aesthetic, personally. Haikyuu. I've got a whole video about why I dropped this. Me and Devu struggled to make it as far as we could because I wanted to do this Haikyuu versus Kuroko no Basuke video, and I'd seen the first 10 episodes of Haikyuu, like back when it was airing, and I thought it was okay, but it never clicked with me, and I wasn't sure why. And then as we tried to finish it, then it just like gradually more and more was just pissing me off because I just couldn't get into it. And I just like, there's so many things about it that were so weird and off-putting. So we watched we watched up through episode 20. Like, I know we watched a couple episodes on fast forward. I don't know if that was the rest of the show or if we just gave up at some point. Because it was like the last like fucking 10 episodes are all one match. And then we skipped ahead to the second season because I'd heard people say that the second season was better. And we watched the first 5 episodes, and it was like, I mean, it introduces a really cute girl, and that was nice, but, like, other than that, I just didn't, I don't know. I don't click with Haikyuu. I don't know why exactly, other than, I mean, well, yeah, I do know why. I explained it in a video. I made a whole video about why I don't like Haikyuu, and I do like Kuroko no Basuke. Hayore Nyaruko-san. This is just a silly, cute girls saying wacky, funny stuff show that's also about Lovecraft monsters. All the Cthulhu mythos monsters reinterpreted as cute girls. Now, I'm a huge fan of Nyarlathotep, the original, the H.P. Lovecraft monster, mostly because his name is Nyarlathotep. I love Lovecraft. But this show doesn't have much of anything to do with Lovecraft. It's just kind of a dumb otaku comedy show. I know my brother Shade liked this show. I'd be willing to give it another shot. The girls are cute, and she's named fucking Naruko. How could I not? Oh, I clicked it again. Hamatora, the animation. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. This is like a kind of aesthetically interesting, like, stylistic show. This was definitely trying to go for like the doo-da-da-da atmosphere, like, you know, cool, urban, wacky characters, but doing like a mystery action plot. Like, they got superpowers and stuff. It's like a quirky urban action show, but I just wasn't into it enough to continue. I watched 4 episodes and was like, I'm done. Violinist of Hamelin. I actually remember the first episodes of this being pretty okay. This is another one I put on hold and just never got back to. But it was like it was an interesting little 90s fantasy show, but I don't remember what the hell happens in it. So, you know, what the hell is this? Literally, what the hell is this? Is this porn? This is porn. Okay. I couldn't even tell at first. I don't remember that one. Hana Yamata. This is cute girls doing dancing shit. And this one was just a little too cloying for me. Like, it's a little too emotional, and like it's all big, bright, colorful, explosive music. Like everything's like that. Oh, emotions, dancing. It's like, okay, calm down. Just calm down a little bit. It's embarrassing. Handshakers. I did not hate the first episode of this show in the way that a lot of people did. I just watched this the other day. This show got ragged on to hell for the animation. And that's fair. The animation looks terrible. But the funny thing about it is that it's not for lack of trying. Like, this show is just way overly ambitious. It's just like assloads of digital effects and processing, and I mean, there's constant animation. It just doesn't look right because the camera's trying to go in a million different directions, and they can't animate to the fucking like from the camera angles they're trying to do. It's like they're trying to do stuff that only Kyoto Animation could do, like with Hyoka, where they're animating like these insane camera angles that you're like, how do they even move a character through that space? Handshakers doesn't have the skill to do it, and it just looks really bad. But I think the aesthetic they're trying to do is really cool. Like, in the moments where there's not super wonky animation, it looks awesome. I love the crazy effects. I love that there's like always this moving cloudy sky and like these weird fucking fish tank building things and all these CG chains that if they weren't jittering for some reason, they would look great. And I mean, the story is just like, it's just like an edgy teenager thing. I would have loved this show when I was 13. Like, if this came out when I was 13 and it looked exactly like it does, I would have thought it was the coolest shit in the universe. But unfortunately, I'm a little too old to enjoy a story like this. But I didn't hate it. It's way better than Eromanga Sensei, in terms of charm. Honda-kun. This show, I wanted to like it because it's a prequel to Barakamon, which I loved, but I just didn't find it funny. And that's a damning thing to say of a comedy show. Hataraku Mao-sama, this is actually like a particularly unfair drop because I thought the first episode was hilarious. And I just never got around to watching more. And then my friends who did all told me that it later develops like a more serious plot and goes downhill. Like, anyone I knew who watched the whole thing said that they were ultimately like kind of about it and that it wasn't worth watching. So I just didn't. But, didn't really come to that decision myself. Hatsukoi Monster. Oh yeah, this show has the most hilarious premise of all time, which is that this show pretends for the whole. You know what? I'm not even gonna describe it. Go watch the first episode. If you don't know what this show is, if you've never heard of Hatsukoi Monster, it is worth watching the first episode just for the reveal. Don't read the text that's on screen. Read nothing. Read nothing about this show and watch the first episode just for the hilarious twist. And then you don't have to watch anymore because the joke immediately gets old. But, like, it's worth it just for how it fucks with you in the first episode. Hayate the Combat Butler. I had a weird, like, love-hate relationship with this show because when it was first airing, I really, really loved it. I was obsessed with Nagi Sanzanin, this girl here. She was my favorite Rie Kugamiya girl, my favorite Rie Kugamiya tsundere. And I just was totally into the comedy of it because the guy who created Hayate had originally been an assistant to the guy who created Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei, and you could definitely see like shades of that style of humor where both of them were like kind of taking the piss out of Negima and like that kind of story, like these high school harem shows. But Hayate no Gotoku just kind of started becoming one. Like, initially it feels more like a parody, but then as it goes, you realize it just kind of is actually a just particularly absurd high school rom-com show. And, I just kind of started losing interest as I realized that it was never going to make any progress, that it was always going to be just, like, the same kind of dumb, goofy stuff. And I've been reading the manga as well, which I had like four or five volumes that I own of. And I just kind of lost interest. And then the show was like, it had 52 episodes, and I had meant to finish it, just never got around to it. And then they brought it back with Manglobe doing it, and I had watched the first episode of that. I don't know if it's marked on here. I don't know if I finished the first episode, but I had really hated the newer one. And I was just like, oh, I have no desire to watch this anymore. I've lost all interest in this series. And then I think I tried to rewatch this one later and just found it wasn't great. Heavy Object. I covered this in Finish or Fail. It's almost a good show, but it just has a few too many things that take me out of the experience. A few too many stupid things, mostly in the production, that make it hard to take seriously. Hellsing, the original. So I had the first 2 volumes of this on DVD, which is why I had seen them. I also had the first couple volumes of the manga. And I love Alucard, and I love like the kind of extremely stylized violence that this story has, but I had not really gotten into the plot that much. And the anime series, like, I had felt like it was almost too dark, and like, whereas the manga felt a little bit more goofy, the anime was like really putting it on the horror end, but it wasn't that like well produced or anything. And then eventually the reason I dropped it was because they made Hellsing Ultimate, and I figured I'd just watch that instead, which I still only seen the first episode of. But because this anime is very incomplete, and it doesn't cover very much, so I figured, hey, what the hell, I'll watch the better one, and never finished the original. Hen Semi. This is a like really weird sex comedy show that I had just found off-putting and didn't continue. I might give it another shot because it was 2010, so I was just a wee cherry boy back then. Maybe that's why I found it so off-putting. XL Saga. Man, this is one of those shows that like was legendary, and I'd heard about it for so long. How long have I been going? Okay. I'd heard about this for so long, and then my aunt gave me like a bunch of anime DVDs she had laying around her house, because her and her kids are anime fans, and they had all this random crap. And so they sent me an XL Saga box set, and I watched the first 5 episodes, and I just didn't find it funny. Like, I don't know why. Not my style of humor, I guess. Which I expected to like it, and I did not. Where the hell was that? What was the full title? There we go. Heroic Age. I just remember thinking this was dumb. This is another one I've heard picks up later from some people. Or maybe it's one that gets shitty later. I don't remember. It's one that it changes over the course of its run, according to people. But I don't remember if it's supposed to be good or bad. I just remember that I didn't like the first episode. Hetalia Axis Powers. It's Hetalia. It's a bunch of personified countries. It's just cute boys doing cute things, I guess. All I remember about it is this dude saying pasta and making that hand, which I feel like they probably ran that joke into the ground, considering that it's right there on the fucking thing, because it was hilarious in that episode. I remember the first episode of this when it came out. I thought it was really funny, and then within 2 episodes, I completely wanted nothing to do with it anymore. Hibike Euphonium Season 2. I talked about this somewhere, Finish or Fail, probably, just that, like, it's just, like, I don't know. I guess I don't care enough about the melodrama of the characters. Like, the stuff that was happening, the plot of Season 2 was just completely uninteresting to me. Like, to me, the appeal of Season 1 was Kumiko and Reina's story, which was beautifully told, and it was like about Reina and her struggle to try to become a to embrace taking something seriously. Her trying to embrace this idea that she was going to try to do her best and actually, commit to playing the euphonium in a club where there's all these social stigmas and dynamics tied into everyone's different levels of talent, very similar to ping pong in the way that it handles that narrative. And the show kind of went exactly how I had predicted it would when I made a video about the first 2 episodes. And that's why I never made a second video about it, because I felt like I'd already made my point. But then everything surrounding that was way less interesting. Like, there's these subplots about other characters that I didn't give a fuck about, and that's why the first season, you know, even though, like, at its heights, it was fucking golden, but then it had parts that I was just like, you know, so it really affected my perception of it. Season 2 starts off feeling like it's all the part. Like, it almost felt like the story that I'd come for was already over in the first season, and it was like, where do we go from there? You know, I guess we go into just other characters' stories that I don't care about. So, yeah, I completely lost interest after just a few episodes. Hidan no Aria. This was like, just fucking... this was Yuji every lead the show. Like, the main character guy is basically Yuji from fucking Shakugan no Shana, and this is a fucking Rie... This show, when it came out, felt like a blast from the past, because Rie Kugamiya as the tsundere lolly was the thing in 2007. Like, you had Shakugan no Shana, Zero no Tsukayama, and Hayate no Gotoku. And then the next year you had Toradora, which was kind of in the same vein with the tsundere that she played. And that was like the era of that. And then years went by and that was kind of over. And then this show came along and it was like dragging us back. It was dragging us back to then, and it seemed really bad. I heard something really interesting about this recently, though, which is that in the second season, they just completely cut out the main guy and just made it about the cute girls fighting or something. That's someone told me that very recently, and if that's true, I mean, it has a lower score than this one, but I don't know. It sounds like it would be much preferable. I mean, these girls are cute, so I don't know. Maybe it's worth watching that version of it. I really hope that story is true. High School DD, as I've been told to say it. Yeah, this show is fine. It's a fan service comedy action show. It's got tits. It's got some cute girls. It's got an amazing ending video with all the girls doing the fucking sexy pole dances, which is incredibly well animated. Particularly this fucking lolly girl right here, shaking her ass. But I don't know, the plot didn't seem interesting, so I just kind of gave up on it. High score. What the fuck is this? What is this? I have no recollection of ever having seen one episode of this. 3-minute episodes, so that's not too surprising. Hime-chen Lil Pri. Oh yeah, this is just like a shoujo. It's these three girls and they turn into idols. It's like a magical idol show. You know, it felt really generic and like literally any other transforming idol show. Himoto Umaru-chan. This show has its moments. You know, it has moments that are kind of fun and kind of cute, but Umaru as a character, it's just, I can't, how do I put this? Umaru should be a fun and cute character, but the way the show treats her is almost too real, because her brother is like a hardworking guy who like comes home from work all fucking stressed out after working all day, and his fucking sister is just at his house bugging him to do shit for her, forcing him to go out and do all this extra bullshit and to take care of her. And she, like, when you see it, it's not funny, it's just disconcerting. It just pisses me off. I'm just like, why are you like this? Like, this isn't charming. This is just infuriating, you know? Like, this little weird hamster thing, this would be an adorable time, but it's like I can't get past the cringe of watching the way she treats her fucking brother. Chaika, as I like to call it. Yeah, this was just like a pretty standard action adventure show with a really cute girl as the main girl, It had some pretty good action animation. I just kind of felt like, who cares after the first couple episodes. Hokuto no Ken or Fist of the North Star, you are shock! One of the greatest opening themes of all time. A lot of people's childhood is defined by this show. I did not grow up with it, though I did see it when I was like 12. My cousin Boyd bought a DVD of it, and we watched that DVD. And it just didn't seem like something I'd ever end up continuing because it's pretty episodic and it was pretty slow. It's like usually the whole episode is just a setup for who Kenshiro's gonna punch to death at the end. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people really love this show, and I've heard good things about it. I don't know how long it takes for the plot to sort of develop. I don't know when or if it becomes like something really interesting. It's got a fuckload of sequels and all this complex lore that I am vaguely aware of, but I don't know. Maybe if there's an episode guide out there or something, I'd give it a look. Hanobono Log. Yeah, this was just like 2-minute episodes about couples being cute, and it just made me feel lonely and mad. So I stopped watching it. Kirby, right back at ya. Watched a bunch of this on the Fox box when I was a kid. It had really obnoxious 4Kids dub. Watched the last 5 episodes, which are sort of a movie, like a TV movie with Munchie for the Plebe and the Weeb. Look forward to that. It is definitely the weirdest episode of the Plebe and the Weeb. So that one will be interesting to see the reaction to. Hokago no Pleiades. This one, I watched the first episode. I think I stopped paying attention like halfway through. So I didn't even really fully watch this first episode. It was really, really slow, and I just didn't get it. I didn't get what it was going for, so I just kind of dropped it. I've heard this is a good show. It's, it doesn't have the best Mal score, but I know a few people for whom this is their favorite show of 2015. And I know it's like about astronomy and shit. So I really do want to give it another shot, but I guess I haven't resurrected it from the dropped list yet. Hunter x Hunter the original, 1999. I don't remember watching 2 episodes of this. I do not in any way remember when I did, and I honestly suspect it's possible that because originally I dropped the 2011 Hunter x Hunter when it was airing after 2 episodes. Not because I thought it was bad, but because I thought it would go on forever and I would never keep up with it. Which is true, but then eventually it ended, and I watched all of it, and it was great. I think I might have marked this as dropped, thinking it was the 2011 one, and it wasn't, because I have no recollection of watching 2 episodes of the original show. I'm scared to change it, because I could be wrong, but I'm fairly sure I never watched the original, and I want to watch the original. So, you know what? Let's just remove this from my list entirely. Because I'm pretty sure I never saw it. Hyakurouran Samurai Girls. This is like a action fan service thing with a really weird... I remember it had these calligraphic brushstroke shots. It was odd. And not good. Hyako. This was just a cute girls doing cute things in high school comedy show. I did not know I watched 3 whole episodes of this. That explains why I dropped it, because I don't remember. I don't remember what the hell happened in those. This aired alongside K-On! And it was just the weaker. Wait, did it? K-On! Wasn't this season. Maybe this was before K-On! Huh. I remembered them airing at the same time, but I guess I was wrong. What did this air alongside? Kind of Memo or something? I remember this having run alongside another slice of life show that I liked more, and that's why I dropped this one. But I don't know what it was now. Maybe I had seen episode 1 while it was airing and then tried to watch the rest at the same time as K-On! I have no idea. I could have sworn that aired alongside K-On! Though, but I was wrong. Hyoka. I've talked about this one in a video before. That I just find I don't like the main character, and the show's whole outlook and theme just doesn't grab me. And it's mystery, and I'm not a big fan of mysteries in themselves, which I need to make a follow-up vlog about that, because a lot of people don't understand what I mean when I say I don't like mysteries. But yeah, and also the animation, because the animation's fucking ludicrously good, but it's just characters sitting around. And I'm like, why? Why did the greatest animation in the world have to get used on characters sitting around talking? Why was that a thing that happened? But, very beloved show, often considered one of the best shows of the last, of this decade by a lot of people. So there's a temptation to give it another shot, but I don't think it's my thing. But maybe if I watch the whole show, I'll understand in more depth why it's not my thing. Hyper Police. I've read the first 3 volumes of the manga of this because my friend Marcus had them and loaned them to me and then never took them back. But the problem with this show is the animation is not good. This girl right here in the manga is one of the hottest girls of all time. I mean, this picture is a pretty decent representation of why, although I don't like this weird angular thing they did with her face. But, like, she's this super tiny cat girl with big tits who she would have been on my top 10 hottest anime girls list, although I later changed it to only be for the last 10 years, so she wouldn't have made it onto the final version. But, like, she would be one of the hottest anime girls if it was the manga, but the anime just does no justice to the character work, the artwork. It just doesn't look good, and it's got this weird claustrophobic feel to the shot composition and stuff. I just found it off-putting and didn't like it very much. Idol Project. I think I have a DVD of this that has like the first 2 episodes, and I watched one of them, and it was not good. I think I remember having pretty good art, but like just being a weird, boring show. Idolmaster Xenoglossia. I watched the first 2 episodes of this, I think before the newer Idolmaster anime, the one that actually makes sense and has anything to do with Idolmaster. I just remember, like, I know this was a very contentious show. There's a lot of people who really hated this, and then some who think it's cool and worth a look. And I've always been kind of curious about it, so I'd like to give it a second look, kind of, but I guess I wasn't into it at the time. Ikoko Meido no Kroisei. This is a fucking Iyashikei show from the master himself, if I remember correctly. No, Sato Junichi. There we go. Well, it looks like he wrote it. He didn't actually direct this one. That's interesting. Who the hell is this guy? Kenji Yasuda. Macross Delta and Shugokara. Okay, that's an interesting career. I haven't seen this one. This looks like a clusterfuck. Anyway, it's very much in the style of a Junichi Sato series, whom if you know Iyashikei, you've seen this guy's shows. Amanchu, Aria, fucking well, he's done a lot of stuff, so not all of this is Iyashikei, but, Tamayura, and you get the point. This is like those, and this girl is the cutest fucking thing in the whole universe. She is just so adorable, and she wears these beautifully drawn, complex outfits, and hangs out in France, and it's exactly like any other Iyashikei show, which is why I did not watch past the first episode, because they're all basically the same, and I get bored watching them. Initial D! Initial D is great. The racing scenes are great. The racing is awesome. When the characters get behind the wheels of cars and it starts blasting Running in the 90s and other Eurobeat songs, it's the coolest shit in the world. Off the track, the story is really hit or miss. The side characters, like the main character guy is just kind of stoic, and then his best friend dude, I can't even remember which one of these fucking idiots it is, but his best friend is just so pathetic it's hard to watch. And like oftentimes an episode will just be about how much his friend fucked up royally at doing something. So, I was enjoying this show, but then like just the off the track scenes were so obnoxious that it just wasn't, it moves very slow. So I just couldn't get through enough of it to get to all the racing scenes, I guess. And the show goes on for an eternity. La Blue Girl is a famous old porn about ninjas with portal vaginas who fuck demons. And there's a second season of it. I guess I watched one episode of each. They look very different from each other, though. Maybe that's why. I think this one had some Yuri scene that I had seen a gif of, and that's why I checked it out. What is this? This is porn. I don't remember this one at all. Interlude. This is a fucking weird ass 3-episode OVA. It's like very moody. It's like the main characters in this world where like time keeps freezing or something, or he goes to like an alternate reality and sees some girl. I remember it being like slow and weird, and I didn't understand why it was only 3 episodes. But I watched the first 2 and didn't care for it very much. Inu X Boku SS. Oh, this was the one. I think this is the one where the main girl has this guy as like her servant, and she's just like kind of a bossy chick. She's super cute, but I think this is one where I was like frustrated because the girl was so cute, but I hated her personality, and I was like, I don't want to watch this, you know. This is like a Yuri baiting short series that I just thought was dumb and not funny. What else is here? Inuyasha, 70 episodes I have marked. So Inuyasha was a fucking big deal back in the early 2000s. It was on Cartoon Network on Adult Swim, and I loved it. As a kid, it was one of my favorite shows. It's about a fucking a dog demon guy who's in feudal Japan. This girl Kagome falls down a well, and it takes her back to feudal era Japan, and she fucking hangs out with Inuyasha, and they're trying to stop. In the early part of the series, which is not bad, the early episodes of Inuyasha are okay, because at that point it's just fighting demons. It's like Kagome and Inuyasha will fight a cool demon, and he'll use different powers and stuff, and they fight cool demons, and they keep picking up new like party members. You know, they'll make new friends every couple of episodes. And then there's this mini arc where Inuyasha fights his brother Sesshomaru, and it's cool, and it's like, whoa, yeah, this is interesting. Then they introduce the big villain, Naraku, who's like the main central villain of the series. And then the entire fucking show forever becomes about Naraku. Every bad guy is a servant of Naraku. Every time they're getting close to something, they're close to Naraku. Oh, they're going to fight Naraku. And they keep running into him, but they can never fight him because he's surrounded by miasma, and he's got these poison insects that he's always got around him. And Moroku here, the monk, he has a thing called the what the hell is it called? It's Wind Scar's Inuyasha's move. What the hell is his thing called? Wind Tunnel. And he can suck things into his hand, but he can't suck in the poison insects. So he's always they're always there. He's completely fucking useless because there's always poison insects in any scene because it's a plot convenience. So Moroku can't just use his insanely OP power to just win every fight because that would be boring. So there's always something for some reason he can't do it. The show just gets quickly rote and formulaic, and it starts introducing more characters who are just lame. It starts trying to ham up the fucking love quadrangle because Inuyasha is in love with the girl who Kagome is a reincarnation of, but she comes back. Kikyo, she comes back, so there's a love triangle between them, and then there's this other fuckboy who's some wolf guy who's in love with Kagome, who just gets introduced, and who the fuck cares about him? It just never ends. It just goes on forever and just keeps introducing more bullshit. And like the core intrigue of the show, this just like the tsundere romance between Inuyasha and Kagome. They're a couple of cool friends, and they're on an adventure through, gorgeous feudal Japan with an amazing soundtrack by Kaoru Wada. None of that fucking matters because it just becomes the Naraku show for the rest of the time, and it's fucking completely lame. So yeah, that's why I dropped Inuyasha. Infinite Stratos, I don't remember watching the first episode of this at all, and rightfully so. This was the Asterisk War before the Asterisk War. Ishukan Friends. This was one I think I just thought felt like overly sentimental, and I didn't like it. Itsuka Tenma no Kuro Usagi. What is this? I don't remember this one. Some light novel adaptation. I don't know. I don't care. Ixion Saga DT. I also don't remember watching the first episode of this. I'm guessing it's just some kind of generic fantasy adventure show. I mean, it doesn't. This image is hideous, so I'm not surprised that it's something I dropped. Jigoku Shoujo. This show kind of made me realize a lot of stuff that I don't like in anime, because this is an anthology horror show. It's like an episodic. It's like each episode is a different character. It'll be like, a character does something wrong, and there's like a website that if you go on there and you say, I want you to kill this motherfucker, then this girl will come and kill that motherfucker. It's a very standard, like, modern horror kind of show. Like, how would I put it? Like if you watch a movie like The Ring or something, like, or the stuff that's come after it, like The Grudge and like all the Ring clones. This feels like a Ring clone, but each episode is a different miniature story, and they're all just these little like kind of morality play things, and I just really hate that style. Which this is kind of like when I was talking about Death Parade and how I don't like that kind of show. This was the one that made me realize I don't like that kind of show, where it's like each one is just getting to know just enough about the character that you can sort of form an opinion of them and then have an ironic twist happen to them, and then you're supposed to go like, oh, what an ironic twist, and then their soul goes to hell, and yeah, I'm just not a fan of that particular formula of a show. Kikaider, this was on like Cartoon Network at some point, and I saw a couple episodes and I thought it was okay. It's another like older manga adapted in the 2000s. I don't remember shit about it. That was a long time ago. This looks like porn. Yep. I remember this one. Wait, it says I've seen 2 out of 2 episodes, but it's marked as dropped. I remember this one being okay. I think I'm just going to mark this as completed, because clearly I watched the whole thing. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the original OVA. Yeah, this was the original Stardust Crusaders adaptation. I watched 2 episodes of it because when Satoshi Kon died, there was a lot of like summaries of his whole career going around, and I found out that he directed episode 5 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Maybe it was 5 and 6. I know he did episode 5. He storyboarded it, and it had some really interesting shit that is very much up his alley in it. The kind of stuff that he would do in his movies later. And it just felt very like grim. Like, the thing about that OVA is that it plays up the horror angle of JoJo as opposed to the comedy bullshit angle that the current show does, which is an interesting take. Like, each one kind of makes sense as an interpretation of JoJo, but like, I think at the time I had read all of part 1, and I just felt like the show did not represent what I thought of as JoJo, which was like the batshit over the top violence. Anyway, Joker Game. I talked about this in the How to Recognize a Terrible Anime in Just One Episode video, I think. It's boring, and there's so many scenes that try to seem deep and they don't actually make any sense. I actually had had planned a second video about this, specifically comparing I think it was episode 2 of this with episode 3, or maybe it was another episode 2. It was like the same episode of this and then also Young Blackjack, because they both tried to do a very similar thing, but Joker Games was stupid and dumb, and Young Blackjack was good. So yeah, I was gonna like compare those two. Jormungand. This is a show that's like everyone compares it to Black Lagoon because it feels exactly like Black Lagoon. It's like a bunch of gangsters with over-the-top personalities and skills doing action stuff. And I just didn't really click with the characters and the aesthetic. Like, I thought the show looked weird. So I just didn't bother continuing. A lot of people really like this show, but it's mostly people who are like really big into this genre of just like cool action spectacle stuff, which I mean I'm not a fan of. Joshi Kosei Girls High. I didn't know I dropped this show, but I guess maybe it wasn't that funny. It's a show about a bunch of girls being raunchy in high school. Like, the idea of it is to show the like other side of high school girls. Like, it's like the anti-moe show. Like, the point of it is to show that girls are crass and dumb as opposed to like cutesy and whatever. But I guess I just didn't think it was funny enough to keep watching after 3 episodes. That's it for this one. I think I ran longer than usual. Yeah. Well, I got more descriptive with stuff to a fault. Hope you enjoyed. See you in the next part where this keeps happening forever.